The saga has concluded and the challenge is over. So what did I think of Linus and Luke trying out Linux for their main gaming rigs for a month? I have thoughts, and you probably won't agree with them. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ren, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the Linus Tech Tips Linux Gaming Challenge Part 4 conclusion, where it's basically a wrap-up of their thoughts and what they feel about Linux as a gaming platform, and we're going to discuss what I thought about it. We're also going to look at the video this time, instead of me just trying to ramble off by just thinking of stuff off the top of my head that I remembered from the video that I just watched. Without further ado, we're going to jump over to the desktop, we're going to take a look and see what they said. So here we are over on the desktop, we have the video pulled up and full screened, and we're going to just talk through a couple of the points they bring up. We're not going to watch the whole video. If you want to watch the whole video, I have it linked down in the description below. You can check it out there. I highly recommend it. I really do think this is a great video because as Linux users, we need to hear other people's complaints from outside our bubble. Otherwise, we're just in a little echo chamber and we don't ever hear anything else. So without further ado, let's get into it and we'll talk through a few of these points.
But if what you want is a simple, painless gaming experience, then let this be a cautionary tale.
So yes, if you want a simple and painless gaming experience, play on Windows. That's just plain and simple. It is not an easy way to get, there's not an easy way to get games running on Linux other than Proton if it happens to work. If it doesn't work in Proton in Steam, it's not easy. It is a lot easier than it used to be, but it's not what most Windows gamers would consider easy because you have to go through and configure stuff. Lutris makes this a hell of a lot easier. Like, my God. And my cat is moving away from me. Hello, buddy. Yes, I love you too. But it's still not really easy. You have to, again, you have to configure things. You have to know what you're setting up. You know how to set up wine prefixes. Lutris, again, makes this a lot easier, but it's not what I would consider easy.
We just focused on playing the games that we would normally want to play.
This is great. This is what we needed, was just normal Windows gamers going through and using Linux the same way they always would. That is what we need. We need to make it to where this is easy to do, or at least easy enough that it's not a huge barrier to entry. So what they did was they just played the games they would normally play, which is good. That's how things should work. It's... And I hate this. There are so many people I see on like Twitter and such who are just like, well, what, just play a game that works on Linux. I mean, cool, but they have a gaming PC. It's supposed to be able to play everything. That's why you get the PC. So you have this vast library of games that you don't have to go like, oh, does this one work on the system I'm playing? It just, do I have a graphics card strong enough? I do? Cool, I can play it. That's all it's supposed to be. Saying only pick games that work with it makes it sound like you're playing on a console, at which point, why did you buy a PC instead of a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Nintendo Switch? I say as someone who has also a PlayStation 4 Pro and a Nintendo Switch, and I love those things, and I play a lot of games on them, actually. I play more console games than I do PC games, and that's one of the reasons why I'm able to get away with gaming on Linux, because I use Linux for more media stuff and occasional PC gaming. My main gaming setups are my PlayStation or my Switch. That's what most of my games are on some sort of console. A lot of my games are actually on handheld, like the DS and the 3DS and the Game Boy. Those are some of my favorite consoles of all time to play games on. I love those. Or if I'm playing games on my PC, I'm playing on emulators because I love emulation. I absolutely adore emulation. I think is an extremely important thing for preserving video game history because that's something that no company seems to take seriously. I'm looking at you, Nintendo. But this is the sort of framework that we needed. Just normal gamers trying to play normal games, just changing operating systems.
Or at least we tried to. Because not all the games that we wanted to play actually worked. The very first day I installed Linux, I also tried to play the Battlefield 2042 beta.
This would be an issue. Battlefield, I believe, has anti-cheat in it, so it wouldn't work. Luke goes on to explain that he played it the first day because he was still on Windows, and then they started the challenge, and he couldn't. His friend group is so intricately ingrained into just playing new games as they come out. And I have some friends like that. One of my buddies plays the new games as they come. Two of my buddies, actually, they play together. They play new games as they release. I would say they are not people I would suggest Linux to. And I don't think I might have actually suggested Linux to them. But they're not people that I would say should be gaming on Linux. Because they just play too many brand new releases, too many online FPS games, too many things that have like anti-cheat. They play Back 4 Blood, Halo, they played the new Battlefield, Call of Duty, all these games that have all these anti-cheat systems and stuff that just won't work on Linux. Now, that being said, I don't think that this means that they should never use it. I think these are the biggest hurdles that we have to face. We've overcome a lot of hurdles. Desktop environments are really nice looking and are really easy to use now. Installing is not that hard anymore, though I wish it was easier to get stuff with it pre-installed. That is another big hurdle I think needs to be addressed at some point. But I think getting anti-cheat games working will be a huge boost to gaming on Linux, and it's something that's already started to happen. With the addition of Easy Anti-Cheat and BattlEye having Proton compatible versions, we just need developers to enable it. That is going to be the hard part, is giving them a reason to want to do that, because that's going to be a whole new market of things they don't want to deal with because they're not their target demographic. They're not the thing making them the most money. The thing making them the most money is Windows gamers. Those are the people that they want to focus on. Those are the people that they want to have all of the resources pouring to, not the weird guy on Linux that can't seem to get this game to work, even though it says that it's compatible with Proton, because they don't make Proton. They don't know about Proton. That's not what they're focusing on. They just enabled the thing that Steam said would let more people play their game and then forgot about it. And I don't blame them for that. That is a completely legitimate thing to do. Now, granted, if they distributed their game as open source, the community could take care of it, and I think that would be really cool. I don't think any games are going to do that, though. As much as I would like it, I highly doubt that's going to happen.
I game mostly by myself as a way to relax or to hang out with my kids.
So yes, Linus is in the same boat as me. He plays by himself to relax. He just loads up single-player games and just has fun with them, which is mainly what I do. I play a lot of JRPGs and stuff. Now, granted, JRPGs are not perfect on Linux. I'm looking at you, Catherine. If they have, I believe it's Windows Media Foundation is what it's called, that's a pain in the ass to get working. A lot of them have started working better with Proton GE, so like I can now play Persona 4 Golden on my PC, which I own the Steam copy of. If I load it up right now, I could probably play it without an issue now. Unfortunately, I went ahead and beat the whole game and streamed it from my PlayStation Vita because I couldn't get it to run on Linux. Oops. But Linus seems to be in the better situation to be a Linux gamer, but still not perfect. He does later explain how he and his kids got Minecraft Dungeons, but they bought it from the Microsoft Store, not on Steam. So he just could not get that version working until he went and got it on Steam, which, even though he's totally stable financially, I can understand the pain of having to buy a game twice. That's not a fun time. It doesn't matter how much money you have, having to buy something twice is a pain in the ass, because you know you've already got it.
Valve's goal of reaching 100% compatibility with the entire Steam game library.
Okay, this is kind of been backpedaled on. Steam doesn't think that they're going to get 100% compatibility. My armchairs are very clicky. It's their goal, but they've kind of backed on it. Yeah, yet a key original Proton dev has doubts it will work with every single game. Yeah, it's not perfect. I think they could eventually get it, what am I trying to say? I think they could eventually get most games to run on it. I think that's doable, but I don't think every game's going to run on it. It is a very impressive goal, and I really like that goal, and I really hope they can do it eventually. It's not going to be anytime soon. I think by the end of this year, 2022, there will be a significant boost in compatibility for games in Proton, but I don't think it's going to be all of them. Hell, I don't even think it's going to be 50 of the top 10 games. We might get to 50% of the top 10 games. We might get over 50%, but it's not going to be all of them. We're not going to get to all of them. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say that we won't get to 50. I'm going to say that we're not going to get all of the top 10 games. Also, according to Proton DB, we have like 75% of the top 100. That's a little bit of a stretch because things that might have updated and no one's made a report on it. So it's more of a guideline than a straightforward. Typically, if I see a game on Proton that's rated gold or above, I'll go ahead and buy it. And then if it doesn't work, I'll just run it on my Windows box and remote play it. That's not a solution everyone can do. I am in a very fortunate position where I can do that. I've upgraded my PC over the years and I've kept the old hardware and used it to build a second PC. So I can manage to do that. Not everyone can. But yes, having every game run through Proton is a very lofty goal that I don't think is actually achievable, at least not anytime soon. Maybe by the end of the year, they'll have found some breakthrough that will make it possible in the near future, but I'm not holding my breath for that.
It's also not the silver bullet that it would have been 10 or even 5 years ago, when nearly every game worth playing was available on Steam.
this is another very good point. Steam is not the only dog in the game anymore. We've now got Epic Game Store. We now have Origin. We now have Uplay. We've now got GOG. We've got the Rockstar launcher for all of their games. And I absolutely hate that. I hate that there's so many different launchers now for every company. The Blizzard launcher, which I've literally never installed on any PC because I just don't care for any Blizzard games. Oops. Crucify me or whatever. I don't care for Blizzard games. Never have. Tried World of Warcraft for a little bit. Couldn't get into it. Uninstalled it. Got to like, I think level 17 of the 20 level free trial and it was just, okay, I'm done. Granted, a lot of good games are on Steam. A huge amount of really good games are on Steam, but it's not all of them. It's not something that is the silver bullet of getting, if you have Steam running, you're good to go. Now, if you have Steam running, I think you're pretty much 90% of people, of PC gamers, are set. Because I still think Steam is the best storefront out of all of them, but it's not perfect. Again, I think I mentioned this in another video somewhere or earlier in this video. I can't remember now. Everything's blurring together. I have a game on Origin. I have Alice Madness Returns, which is one of my favorite games of all time. My cat just nearly fell. Are you okay, buddy? Oh yeah, you're going back to your toilet. You're fine. But I don't think that having perfect compatibility with Steam is even enough. I'd like to think it's enough. I think it probably would be enough for most people. But the fact that some people will hear that you can't use these other launchers or you have to jump through these hoops for these other launchers will turn them off immediately. And that sucks. I would love to see native Linux versions that either integrate Wine or integrate Lutris or something. Maybe just an easy one-click install on Lutris, which I think some of these things have. Like Origin, you have a one-click installer for Lutris that you can just go to the website, click install, and let it run, at least on Ubuntu-based distributions, because I use Pop! OS. That's great. If we could get that working super easily, fantastic, and just let it run through an installer.
In spite of all of that work, we're honestly just not there yet. And we're mere months from the launch of the Steam Deck, when
There's another good point. Like I was saying before, we're not there yet. It's not perfect. It's not. If it is not a basically perfect experience, Windows users are going to be turned off by it. They're just going to say, why am I bothering? And they'll just go and install Windows. And I know a lot of people really see this as like, oh, but it's so good now. Why would you not use it? Because Windows is easier. That's why. It's literally that simple. I don't like to believe it's that simple, but you have to face reality that it is that simple. It's all there is to it. This is easier. And that's it. That's all there is to it, is just that Windows is easier. Now on the Steam Deck, I think Linux will be easier because you'll get their custom interface, you'll get their custom control scheme. That will definitely be an easier experience. I don't think using Windows on a Steam Deck is a great idea at all. In fact, I think it's a terrible idea if you want to run Windows on the Steam Deck. I think Sebastian? You okay, buddy? Okay, you're climbing right back up. All right. Yeah, maybe take a break. What was I saying again? Yeah, Windows on the Steam Deck is not a good idea. You're not going to get the custom interface that you need in order for it to work properly. Controlling Windows with the controller is not going to be a fun time. I can tell you that right now. Maybe you can get away with using it in docked mode and then loading it up and running it that way, but that seems still like a pain. So, But Linux on the desktop as your gaming PC's OS is a whole different story. I think Valve has definitely learned their lesson from the Steam machines, because there was no way to run Windows games at all through Steam on those. You had to play native games, and there just weren't very many of them, and I think that was the biggest thing holding it back. The fact that there was just nothing to play on them. You got a bunch of really cool indie games, and that was about it. You didn't get anything else. And it sucks that that's how it is. But this is the reality we're in. We're not there yet. If we can't get all of the most popular games to run on Linux, Windows users are not going to swap. You'll get a little bit of a trickle like we've been getting, and that's it. You'll get people like me who are just weird and decided, hey, why not? And just try to do it. But that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get the dedicated PC gamers to move over from Windows, even though that would absolutely help get compatibility way up and get way more native games. It's not feasible. It's just not.
Because natively supporting Linux is seen by some developers as a somewhat brutal experience.
Yep, this testimonial for a developer. If this is actually what happened, I don't know if it is. I'm just taking their word at face value. I haven't done any additional research. I'm going to trust that this is what actually happened, but I have no way to verify that as it is, so we're just going to take it at face value. If this is true, that is horrible. Why would you do this? It was basically what it is. A bunch of Linux users were complaining constantly about bugs and issues of their game, and they were making them like no money. So they would dump thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into fixing these bugs in the Linux version and get maybe $200 or so out of it. That is a terrible business model. And I totally understand not wanting to support Linux after that. Oh my God, that is awful business. I appreciate them trying, but I totally get why they stopped.
And as much as everyone already knows it, it bears repeating. The fragmentation problem continues to be desktop Linux's greatest obstacle to widespread adoption.
This is a weird point. Yes, fragmentation can be an issue. It's also a strength. Don't get me wrong. It is absolutely still a strength of Linux, but it is an issue. And it's a weird thing to think about that. Why would having more options be bad? And that's something that a lot of people just don't think about. Choice paralysis. Having too many options that you don't know where to start. That's why I personally believe that, I think Chris Titus Tech has mentioned this too, distributions are kind of meaningless. We shouldn't worry about making more distributions, focusing on certain things. We should worry about having certain distributions be at the forefront, and then you can have all your more specialty distros in the background for more advanced people and your communities behind them, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying any distribution should shut down. I'm just saying that we should stop trying to recommend a million different variations. I think we should have like Ubuntu based and Arch based as the forefront of our use. Maybe Fedora in there as well. But those are the three that should be focused on is Ubuntu, Arch, Fedora, and anything based on them. So like, for example, I use Pop! OS, which is based off Ubuntu. I think Ubuntu should be a forefront. Honestly, I think Ubuntu should be the gaming distro to go with, simply because it's the one that everyone knows about. It's the one that when there is an official package for it, it's usually a deb file for Debian Ubuntu distributions. It's the one that has the most community support that you can find online. It is gonna be the best one for people new to Linux who are trying to play games on Linux. It's gonna be their choice. I'm not saying it's the best distro overall. There are definitely advantages Arch has and things based off Arch like Manjaro. There are advantages that Fedora has and things based off it. I'm not saying any distribution is better than the others. I'm saying Ubuntu is the best candidate for a front runner for Linux gaming, just someone to represent it. And yes, I know they've got controversies like the whole snaps thing and them trying to push that as the only packaging format or whatever. Whatever. Who cares? Okay? Honestly, get over yourselves. It's just a packaging format. Maybe others are better, but it's Linux. You can change it. If you're so in depth enough that you can know the difference between packaging formats, you're skilled enough to know how to change it. Okay? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Sorry, rant over.
There were more than a few comments in the chat criticizing us for choosing to play that particular game.
This is another issue I have. Why are you complaining about what games they chose? They are normal Windows gamers. They're going to play the games they want to play. That's the whole point of this challenge, was to see is, can they use Linux as a drop-in replacement for all their gaming needs? No, they cannot. Stop expecting them to change their habits to fit the operating system. Our operating system needs to evolve to fit their needs, to fit more people, more average users. Also, my video just refreshed. Okay, that was weird. This is not the sort of thing that can just be changed. You don't have a bunch of games that you play with your buddies that you just give up on. That's just not how it works. If you buy a game to play with your friends, you want to play with your friends. If you can't get it to work on Linux, you're going to go back to Windows. It's as simple as that. Stop expecting people to change to match the operating system when we're literally using an operating system whose biggest strength is that you can change it to fit any need you need. That was a weird way to phrase that, but you know what? I'm going to stick with it.
Even considering tools like Lutris, the compatibility picture outside of Steam is not as simple as, well, ProtonDB says Linux gaming compatibility is good.
I mentioned Escape from Tarkov.
This is another good point. Things outside of Steam are a big issue. I mentioned earlier the different launchers and such. We need to get those working well. We have the Heroic launcher for launching Steam games, and I think it integrates with Wine, which is great. That's a start. We need more games or more launchers like that for running games. We need to get compatibility with games better. We need to do all these different things, and this isn't going to happen anytime soon. I feel like I'm a broken record as I'm making this video. I feel like I'm just repeating the same things of just trying to hammer it in that get it out of your head that Linux gaming is good, because it's not. It is not good. It's so much better than it used to be, but it's not considered good yet. Not by the average gamer, which is where it matters. It sounds like a downer of a video. It kind of does. And I don't want it to be. I want it to showcase that Linux gaming has improved leaps and bounds over just the past like 2 or 3 years. It's incredible. I don't want to put that down. I swapped to Linux myself 2 years ago because of how much better Linux gaming got. And I've just figured, you know what? A lot of my stuff seems to work on it. I'll try it out. And I haven't swapped back since. Yes, I still have Windows on my other computer as a backup. And that's the setup I recommend people. If you want to try out Linux, install it, dual boot it with Windows. Don't get rid of Windows. Have Windows still on another hard drive or on another partition on your hard drive or something. I recommend another hard drive just because it's easier. But try to do everything you can in Linux. If you can't find something that works or you can't find an alternative for it, just boot back into Windows. And I don't want this video to be a downer. I want it to showcase that Linux gaming has improved drastically in even just the past few years. I swapped to Linux myself like 2 years ago because Linux gaming seemed to have gotten so much better that I just felt, well, a lot of my stuff works. I'll just try it. We'll see what happens. And I haven't looked back. And that's why I recommend to people, keep Windows around as a backup. Have it on another hard drive, have it on another partition on your hard drive. Just do something. Have Windows installed on another hard drive or in another partition on your hard drive, or just something where you still have it. Again, I have a second PC, which is the ideal situation to do it, but it's not ideal for most people. It's very hard to have the parts to build a second PC, which is crazy to think that I managed to do that because I just happened to find cheap old components right before the GPU prices skyrocketed. Oh my God, I need to upgrade my GPU in my main PC and I can't because I can't find a GPU for less than $1,000. I got very lucky with that. So the fact that I can get away with using 2 PCs to run my games is fantastic. I really think that is a great setup. And I wish everyone could do that was using Linux, but that's not practical. That's completely unrealistic to ask of people. Or even running a virtual machine. That's totally unrealistic. Not everyone's computer is powerful enough to run a virtual machine to run your games. I saw someone on Reddit, I want to say a year and a half ago, that was just saying, what's the point of Wine when you can just run a virtual machine? And I was just so baffled at the fact that he assumed that every single person could afford a computer powerful enough to run not only your operating system, but a game in a virtual machine and suffer no consequences to your performance. We need to get everything working easily. That's going to be the big thing holding us back, is that last part, is getting it working easily. We can absolutely get most of these games working, but can we get it working in a way that's easy enough that people can just click a couple buttons in a GUI and they're off to the races? That's where I want to end this video. I want to know, can we get to that point? What all do you think? Do you think we can make Linux get to a point where you can just click a couple buttons and your games just work for everything? I think we can, but I don't think it's anytime soon, and I think we need to accept that. We need to accept that there is a lot of work that needs to go into it. If you are any kind of developer that has an interest in either Wine or with Proton, contribute code. These are some of the biggest things to get working on Linux. KDE is working on making their entire interface a lot easier to use for people. It's not as confusing. GNOME, as much as people like to hate on it and shit on libinvita or whatever it's called, they're making their desktop environment more consistent. This video has been a little all over the place. I've been repeating this. I've been recording for nearly an hour. I'm gonna have to edit all this and post it. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry this ended on such a downer, but I've seen so many comments of people just shitting on this and saying, wow, you're a bunch of idiots. You didn't give Linux a fair shot and stuff. Yes, they did. They absolutely did. They did as best of an assessment as they could for their use cases, which represents what a lot of people are looking for. Other people just don't want to accept that. They don't want to accept the fact that Linux isn't perfect in every way, shape, and form just because it works for them. If it works for you, that's fantastic. It works great for me. But I also have backup solutions for the stuff that it doesn't do. That's not something a lot of people have. And if they can't find a way for it to work on Linux, they're gonna go back to Windows. As much as I hate to admit that, that's how it is. I wish everyone would use Linux. I really do. I think it is the best operating system that we've got on PCs, but I know it's got its flaws. I know it's not going to work for everyone, mainly because of compatibility with tools. But with that, we're going to end this video here. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry again this ended on such a downer note. If you want to see something that's not such a downer note, you should check me out over on Twitch, where we tend to have a lot more fun and be a lot more upbeat. Twitch.tv/itsrogren, where I stream JRPGs and other fun story games. A lot of them running on Linux, not all of them though. I do a lot of console games. And if you want to talk to me more, or you want to just hang out with my community, you can check us out over on our Discord. Again, there is a link down in the description for that. There's also me on Twitter, where you can see me post random things and weird posts and memes. Memes are fun. But I'm going to get out of your hair. I'm going to let you all go. Hope you all have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.